Let us begin our discussions on metrics with pipeline businesses. In a traditional firm, metrics are designed to measure the efficiency of value flow through the pipeline, increase the production with minimal costs, manage the marketing, sales, and distribution channels effectively, and make a revenue that is greater than the total costs, and create profits to reward investors and to finance the future growth. In that sense, if the metric of inventory turns is too high, which is a metric that we have been using for traditional pipeline businesses, if rate of inventory turns is too high, this might be an indicator of understocking and consequently loss of sales. When I was studying Blockbuster's video rental distribution system, the problems with the inventory management, understocking, was not only causing lost sales directly, but also causing loss of word of mouth that would have generated more demand for the movies. On the other hand, if the turnover rate, this metric, turnover rate, is too low, then this could be an indicator of overstocking or a marketing failure. As you see, metrics such as cash flow, inventory turns, gross margin, etc. are used to monitor how healthy the value flow is happening in the pipeline. And they are very helpful in terms of diagnosing the bottlenecks and failure points in the pipeline. When it comes to platforms, in addition to the metrics we have been traditionally using, there are some other indicators that we should consider. Platforms create value through network effects. They are not talking about just crowds or numbers. We are talking about network effects that are fueled by successful interactions happening between the different parties or sites exchanging value on the platform. A successful interaction is a sale on eBay, a view on YouTube, even we should say a liked view on YouTube. Then naturally, platform-specific metrics should measure the rate of successful interactions and also the factors contributing to that. Depending on what stage of a platform we are referring to, from startup to maturity in its life cycle, the metrics we will be using might differ. We will begin with the metrics pertaining to the startup phase of a software platform. So, metrics during this startup phase. If you ever had a startup company or worked at it, or worked for it, or saw a friend starting it, the first thing you will notice is the scarcity of the resources. I have friends from Stanford running multiple startups and sometimes having to work as Uber driver to make extra money to pay for basic expenditures of the company, startup company. I'm serious about that. Be it a pipeline business or a software platform, startups are initially short of resources. Now, in this kind of environment, the decision on what you will measure to check the company's vitals is important. Platforms begin with a core interaction, always. If you start a platform with interactions going into so many different directions, I guarantee you are in the wrong direction. A platform initially has core interactions. Later on, the platform may incorporate additional interactions as it builds up its user base and proves itself. So, what are the basic metrics that would identify the points to improve the core interaction of a platform? There are 3 basic metrics that the literature talks about, and certainly you can add more if you like. Those 3 metrics are liquidity, matching quality, and trust. Let us talk about these 3 metrics one by one. Liquidity. Liquidity normally refers to the amount of liquid assets or cash. In a platform context, liquidity refers to the minimum number of producers on consumers that will get into a respectable ratio of successful interactions. It is the first and very first milestone in the life of a platform that we have to achieve. Without enough liquidity, the current users of the platform also will leave the site and the platform will eventually disappear. When we need to measure the liquidity and take necessary precautions if it is lower than required. So we need to measure the liquidity and take necessary precautions if it is lower than required. How do we measure liquidity? Depending on the type of the service platform is providing and of course its user base, the metrics may differ. If we want to start from somewhere, we may begin with tracking the percentage of listings that lead to interactions within a given time period. What is an interaction then? On an information and entertainment platform, an interaction may be the click-through that takes the user from the headlines to a complete story. I have a friend running a review site and his definition of interaction is making a platform visitor registering and then posting a review on a product. To facilitate this series of actions, A platform owner can make so many A/B tests, experiments to find the best web design and marketing strategy to shorten the number of clicks it takes to achieve this measurable goal. Another example is marketplace. Take eBay or similar sites. An interaction in this case is a purchase of a product. In a professional networking site, an interaction might be swapping of information, etc. All these interactions are actually value units for the users, and it is important to keep the ratio of the successful interactions high. It might also be important to recognize the cases that diminish the liquidity, and let us call this illiquidity. Illiquidity discourages users from participating in the platform activities. Imagine yourself not finding any available Uber ride when you open your app, and this happens a couple of times when you most need those rides. Of course, this will trigger your desire to switch to another platform. In one of the projects I am working with, we are trying to maximize availability of Uber Black drivers as we also optimize their daily route to increase their revenues. A successful interaction happens only if the users are active. Simply counting number of sign-ups may be a very misleading measure to predict the success of a platform. A platform will survive only if it hosts active users. A good metric that then can be the rate of growth in active users. Right? A platform will survive only if it hosts active users. Then, if you think about this, a good metric can be the rate of growth in active users, which is the number of new active users by the number of total active users. Okay, matching quality. The second important metric for a startup software platform is matching quality. Platforms facilitate interactions between different parties. To create a successful interaction, the two sides of the interaction should have a good match. The better the match is, the higher the probability of having a successful interaction. The quality of the matching is achieved through excellence in product and service curation. In order to find a good match, users on opposite ends of the interaction incurs a search cost. A high quality matching lowers the search costs. Users will engage with a platform if the value they accrue through the platform exceeds their total cost of interaction with the platform. Thus, lowering the search costs helps keeping active users on the platform. Then how can we measure matching quality with some concrete metrics? I think the first metric we should think of is sales conversion rate, which is expressed as the percentage of searches that lead to interactions. As understood from this definition, sales conversion is not simply about purchase rate of a product on a platform. A purchase is whatever interaction the platform is promising. As we said earlier, viewing a video, posting a review, rating a product, or even sharing a picture with a friend, etc. Trust. The third crucial metric category for a startup platform is trust. We mentioned in the previous module that the platforms change the consumer behavior. Consumers began to trust total strangers with whom they interact with. The trust actually comes from the platform itself. A platform provides an acceptable level of trust only if it has a working creation mechanism. If you think Uber is not doing a good job in screening its drivers, you wouldn't trust taking a ride in the middle of the night from home to the airport. If you think Airbnb is not making a good job in accrediting hosts before they post their spare room on the platform, you wouldn't sleep in a stranger's house when you go for a conference to another city. The creation materializes itself in the reviews. If the producers are collective positive reviews from the consumers, remember that platforms provide community-driven filtering mechanisms. This increases the level of trust among other consumers for the producers. Sometimes platforms may take extra precautions to strengthen the public trust on the platform. For example, Airbnb had photographers to take pictures of the properties to certify that information contained in the host's post is accurate. Seller platforms like Amazon may authenticate the reviewers before they post any review on a product. Okay, metrics during the growth phase. Once the platform reaches a critical mass of users, we may face with new issues. Remember that the platform started with the promise of a core interaction. We need to maintain the value generating state of the core interaction. At this stage, the platform has an inflow of users while there is also an outflow. These two flows should be balanced. If inflow is bigger, apparently it means that the platform is growing. But this growth may not be balanced. Platforms have a producer and a consumer side. If one of these two sides outnumber the other one significantly, the ratio of successful interactions will begin to decline, and in that case, one meaningful metric will be the producer to consumer ratio. For example, OkCupid facilitates introductions among people looking for romantic connections. My first job offer after PhD was from a dating site as a data analyst, and my wife was not very happy about that. Anyways, one of the things for this platform, OkCupid, to manage is the access of straight men to straight women. If you read Christian Rudder's The Mathematics of Beauty, the last time I checked it was removed from the OkCupid's blog page due to its controversial statements. If you read that blog, there are interesting discussions about this platform's metrics. Basically, the problem was that the ratio was not uniform across participants. The interaction probability between men and women was very low due to an ill-functioning curation mechanism. They changed this by matching men and women of similar attractiveness levels, and they established a ratio between similar groups. This increased the probability of successful interactions. As you see, depending on the nature of the firm, the metrics can be pretty diverse, different, and interesting. For traditional two-sided platforms with producers and consumers on opposite sides, the platform governors should monitor different metrics for each side. On the producer side, the platform should monitor the frequency of producer participation, the number of listings created, and outcomes achieved. If there are any interactions failures, what is the rate of failures to total number of interactions? If there are any producer frauds, how often that is happening and at what scale? Are the products delivered as promised in timely fashion in the condition as advertised? What is the churn rate of a producer on a platform? These are some of the important metrics to monitor on the production side. Now, we have similar metrics on the consumer side. A platform should monitor the frequency of consumption, the frequency of searches, the rate of sales conversion, churn rate. In other words, how likely is it that a customer will be making repeated purchases on a platform? One interesting aspect of platforms is that it is easy to turn a producer to a consumer and vice versa. In that case, a platform may also measure the site switching rate. This is specifically important to keep a balance between producers and consumers. Another interesting metric for platforms is the distance between the producers and consumers. In this context, distance is not the physical distance, but explains the frequency of direct interaction between the two sides, and the size of these interactions, reach, and influence of social media that connects producers to its consumers. In one of the platforms I worked with, I suggested the CEO to keep track of influential consumers, that is, consumers with significant number of friends or followers. This would reduce the distance between the producers and potential consumers on the platform if the platform owner makes sure that influential consumers are well taken care of. Okay, metrics during the maturity phase. Challenges for a platform do not end when it reaches through the startup and growth phases. When a platform is mature and well established, now it is time for this platform to come up with new innovations and improvements on the product to protect itself against competitors and keep its user base active on the platform. A platform must identify necessary adaptations by studying some of the extensions provided by outside developers. These innovations may represent some of the functionalities missing from the core of the platform. Remember, we would focus on the core interaction at the beginning, but now we may need to absorb new functionalities to enhance the core of the platform. For example, Microsoft Windows absorbed a number of applications that were once provided by standalone companies, such as disk fragmentation, file encryption, media playing, etc. Cisco Application Extension Platform, AXP, allows third-party developers create apps working on Cisco routers. Cisco sometimes absorbs or envelopes these apps. What are the common size of these apps? Once again, these innovations represent functionalities missing from the core platform. Innovation maintains a platform's ability to provide value to its user base, and it is extremely important. In that sense, to measure innovation, a platform may count number of successful envelopment moves within a time interval. Another metric would be the percentage of new adopters of a subsystem. A platform should never lose the sight of its users. The most important metric that we are really trying to quantify is customer satisfaction, or how happy the users are with the platform. Next, we will begin talking about how platforms compete as they walk through their life cycle measured by different metrics.